Welcome to another episode of GlideChat. My name is Michael Lombardo. I'm sitting here with David Caldwell, the AVP of Solution Consulting East. How are you, Dave?
Good to be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, finally. We've been hyping this up for a little while now. Where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of Michigan. Just outside of Detroit.
Yeah. I've watched actually a little documentary on some of the changes coming. It looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Dan Gilbert, who owns Rock Central.
Yeah.
He's doing a ton of great stuff there.
Yeah. A lot of stimulus coming into the economy and some new businesses. So
sports teams going downtown.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before about your journey to ServiceNow. I don't know if maybe you want to talk a little bit about your background, just how you got to ServiceNow.
Well, so I'd been in the service management space for a while. I spent a few years at BMC, and before that, I was at a number of other software companies focused more on application lifecycle management, software development. I had an opportunity to go over to a company called Apptio and learn a lot about financial service costing, and we were actually doing a joint presentation with ServiceNow and Apptio, and
that's the magic.
That kind of led to someone who was hiring came up to me and said, "Hey, you interested in coming over to ServiceNow?" And I was like, "Absolutely." That's
awesome. When you mentioned BMC, and then we went down a little rabbit hole with Peregrine and stuff, but how long were you at BMC for?
It was about 3 years.
Yeah. What's your perspective on Remedy? And I know it's like now it's kind of legacy, but it was the king at one point, right, of the space. And so what's your opinion on that? Maybe like back then, or curious to see. I've never really dove in on like Remedy versus ServiceNow differences kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll say as a company, they were really strong at going to market and the go-to-market execution piece. So they invested a lot in training. I learned a ton on how to just get really good at account planning and thinking more strategically and really how do you assemble big multi-product deals. But you're talking about legacy technology. And it's really good technology, but it wasn't on one platform, right? One architecture, not one data model. So for us to sell it, we had to do a lot of configuring integrations. It was just a heavy lift.
And that's because they did acquisitions over the years of other products and try to bolt them together.
Yeah, like Blade Logic, they had a cloud lifecycle management solution.
Yep.
It worked really well when you got set up, but it was
a heavy lift. And we were talking a little bit before, and I was a Service Center, which was Peregrine, then HP customer. And that was like kind of the similar challenges we had. Like I liked using Service Center before I got my hands on ServiceNow, but like the integration with the asset management app, that was tough. It was like, it was all spread out. I think that's what was exciting when I got my hands on ServiceNow. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is one system for all these different applications, one platform in a shared data model, right? Which was just unheard of. And then the ease of development on top of that, and like a cool UI. And then it was built to be scalable. That's what I always kind of, talk about, even with Salesforce. It's like Salesforce, I think, was just like 5 years too soon, where it wasn't necessarily, didn't have the technology to scale. Kind of had maybe that same concept of one data model, but the ease of development wasn't quite there like ServiceNow is.
Yeah, for sure. What was really interesting for me, my first eye-opening moment with ServiceNow. And I only wish I had the opportunity to go right from BMC to ServiceNow, but it just wasn't there. I was literally in a head-to-head bake-off POV with, I was at BMC. And it was against ServiceNow with a large healthcare provider. And they literally had us in the room going through the same use cases, and they were timing us. And
wow.
I mean, I almost had to throw in the towel then. Because it was just the response time, the performance, and even helping customers envision what they could do with it required a lot of pre-work to figure out, how do I cache this environment when I go in there so it performs well. So you had to do a really good discovery so that you knew what the customer wanted to see, so that you didn't go off script, because if you went off script, then
trouble.
Performance. Performance was big.
Really? Yeah, that's so funny, because I remember, they went to the cloud, and and they still like somehow they're still around. God bless them. They're still around. They have like every once in a while I check their employee count because that's a good indicator for me. I don't think they're not publicly traded, right? I don't think so. So
yeah, I know they went private.
Yeah, I think they're owned, private. I thought they were owned by Bain Capital or something, but so I can't like see how they're performing. But it's like wow, they still have like a couple thousand employees. They're still somehow ticking. But we were just kind of talking about some of the changes coming at ServiceNow with industry-specific solutions. And I think the big buzz, obviously, is GenAI. And hopefully not putting this on the spot here, but like I wouldn't mind taking a step back on AI with you for a second and maybe going through like what are the major solutions that ServiceNow's coming to market with? Because I think a lot of companies just say, yeah, we want AI. But it's like, okay, in ServiceNow, what are the AI solutions that are coming out from ServiceNow? And maybe like what are the couple problems that they're trying to solve?
Yeah, sure. So I've had a number of conversations with CIOs actually on this topic. And a big thing they're looking for is just like workforce productivity. And upskilling so that their employees can work on more high value activities and kind of automate a lot of the mundane drudgery work, right? And
which is ServiceNow's goal from like the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny.
And, right. And this is like it's like supercharging it.
Yeah.
And so the big things are, I think a lot of things that you hear a lot of other companies doing around like summarizing data. So you think about agents working at a service desk and they're picking up an incident and they're trying to read through all the notes. Imagine if you went there now and it summarizes it for you. So that agent now can be more efficient, more productive, provide a better employee or customer experience, right? At a lower cost. So there's case summarization. And then when you're closing out these cases, you need to capture the resolution. And there's oftentimes a lot of work in how do I capture the resolution in a consistent way so that if anyone's looking at a resolution across any incident or any case, right, could be HR, could be customer, now they have a more consistent way of summarizing the resolution that makes it easier for people to triage and troubleshoot problems in the future, right?
That's awesome.
So there's the case summarization, which is a big thing across the platform. And then there's also the case resolution. So it's like now summarizing the resolution notes and which then can feed into like content creation through knowledge articles.
Exactly.
And generating.
Because that's already there. All those hooks are already there. It's just the input from the agent sometimes isn't enough to like add value to create those knowledge articles and reuse that data. So, wow. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's content creation. Taking things like those case resolutions and then turning it into like knowledge articles. A lot of our customers are like trying to figure out how do we shift left? How do we get our employees to do more self-service, for example?
Exactly. Everybody wants that.
Yeah. So this is going to help that, I think, by creating higher quality content that's going to help, employees, for example, solve some of their own problems.
Wow. So this is really like just leveling up our agents. We're not talking about replacing. We're talking about summarizing. We're talking about improving the resolution notes. And then we're talking about taking that data and actually creating content to increase case deflection, right?
Right.
And then I've heard a lot about AI search. So improving search on the portal.
Right.
And there's got to be better virtual agent coming up, right?
That's Now Assist.
Now Assist. So can we talk about Now Assist a little bit? Because that's what I think everyone's like really buzzing about.
Yeah. What's interesting about Now Assist is it's using our own large language model. Instead of, the OpenAI language model. And
we're using that for one of our apps.
Yeah. So I think that is going to be the appealing part. And I think that's where, this GenAI AI industry is going to be really interesting is these domain specific models. And, ServiceNow is in a great position because we have, when customers opt in, we have
so much data,
mountains of data that we can now use to better serve
them.
Yeah. And to me, that's super exciting.
It is and that's the power of, again, having one platform that has all these processes. But the challenge has always been, what do you do with that data?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what do you do with these mountains of incidents and mountains of knowledge articles, and how do we connect the dots to when a user's coming to the portal to solve a problem? How do we leverage that? And this is really it. I mean, this is, so I think the whole world is going to change, but like specifically with ServiceNow, it's just like it's like we've laid so much of the foundation for the last 10 years. I feel like now we're able to cash in on it essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's Bill McDermott says like data is the new digital currency.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
And, you know, the companies that have a lot of that data are going to be able to do some pretty powerful things with it. But we're also doing things like text to code, text to flow, right? So you think about, I was out with a customer yesterday, a big bank, and they're like trying to figure out how do we do system development. And so they call it like their federated approach. Well, the text to code is going to accelerate that because they're saying, you know, we're having a hard time training people up, and how do we manage it more like a program? And so I think the text to code is going to make it easier for companies to
big time
build it on top of the building blocks that ServiceNow offers.
Yeah, and even like support from partners and internal people who are already experts at these companies. Yeah, it's going to allow them to move faster, right? If we don't have to, if we don't have to sit there. I used to code a little bit more than I do now. People at GlideFast don't let me have the admin role anymore. So, but you know, even things I knew, I'd still have to go back and double check and Google a couple things to make sure I'm doing it right. And now it's like even the experts. So I know there's a lot of system development. People are excited about that. But so much of this is about saving time and getting more things done, right? You know, I think the way you kicked off the conversation about AI, it's going to help the development in the app rollout, and that's what people are like. Oh, what, you know, is going to still need partners out there if AI's? It's like absolutely, and it's going to allow us to add more value to our customers, which is going to bring their cost down, which is going to allow them to continue to invest in more into the platform, more into the partner system, and I just think it's going to add so much more efficiency. You know, a lot of the challenges we face, mistakes maybe that other partners made, or, you know, mis-solutioning, or even the customer sometimes, you know, architecting the wrong way. I think this is just going to add more integrity into the environments that have been roadblocks historically. You know, when I was a customer, we didn't have, you know, this was like a dozen years ago. You know, we didn't have the best implementation. You know, part of it was our own fault because we wanted to customize. We wanted it to be like just like our old system.
Well, it's our fault too. It's our fault as
well. It's again like with great power comes great responsibility. That's like you can't have this amazing platform with all this opportunity to personalize and configure it to how you know your company needs to use it and roll out these powerful applications if also you can use that power for evil, right? And that's why I like the impact offering that ServiceNow came out with, which is helping customers, I think, keep them on track, keep the guardrails, and not making, you know, maybe bad architecture decisions, you know?
Yeah, there's some really interesting things that you know, I think are very related to that. When I think back, like ServiceNow, I've been here 10 years this January.
Wow, 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I came in, it was basically ITSM and PPM at the time, and
PPM was like tasks.
It
was like
But then we bought Nebula, and then we had ServiceWatch, and that eventually turned into ITOM. And but we also had like these, I think we called them like, you remember ServiceWatch? Yeah. And then we had like these scout apps, I think is what we called them. So it would be, I think HR was even one, facilities. And then what would happen is customers would realize, hey, I love ITSM. Like I had this horrible legacy experience that I'm trying to move away from. And now I want to build out HR, and I want to build out facilities. So I remember a large insurance company, when we rolled out facilities management, they're like, well, we built our own app, you know, how are we going to cut over? So it was a question of like now kind of killing that app and then using it out of the box. So there's been that journey, right?
It's been
the
a
partners
journey.
have had to like take these scout apps, if you will, and then extend them. And over time, we just started building stuff out.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the amazing part of ServiceNow too. It's like, and this is what sometimes I say to customers, this is not your fault. I know we're in this situation, some of these features that you had to build, and they're like, we customize this, but I'm like, these features you build were not yet available. Mm-hmm. And ServiceNow, kudos to them for all their innovation, 2 new releases every year. They've seen what you've done, and they've now added those features natively into the system. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have a little bit of rub here where we have to cut over to the new system, to the new application. HR is, I think, the best example of that, where it started out as in the system, just like another table, and then now it's like this whole new, still in ServiceNow, not an acquisition, not a bolt-on, native to the system, but there's a lot different, like the security models, a little bit more tighter because this is sensitive data, right? It's a sectioned off, scoped app, and all the features that added. I mean, it's like it's exciting to see that, but a lot of the customers, especially the early adopters, that's why I say to new customers now, I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are.
Yeah,
you're getting the benefit of years of other customers innovating, and not just ServiceNow innovating, the customers innovating.
Right, and more mature apps. The other thing that I think what I noticed happened quite a bit was customers moving from, let's say, BMC to ServiceNow. They were of the mindset
they want the same
let's just
thing.
lift and shift.
The same thing. No,
and I think where
it's a challenge for us too.
Yeah, and where we need partners to, and I think you guys do a great job at this, is like have an opinion, challenge the customer, and say, like, you don't want to do that anymore, and here's why. Yep. And so in many ways, our partners, even probably ServiceNow to an extent, allow the customers kind of dictate, to kind of customizing the application. Exactly. Where, they probably they would have more speed and velocity if they stayed more out of the box.
So 2 things on this. I always say it's an art form in how you deliver that message and how you say no. Yeah. Like, hey, that's a great idea, but if we did it this way, we're not going to have upgrade issues. You're staying more in line with the architecture of ServiceNow. And a lot of times, there's a lot of fear in these projects. Mm-hmm. This is a big investment for these organizations. Oh, for sure. It is usually, a few people that, are, butts are on the line here if it doesn't go well.
Right.
It's a new application to them. They're a little nervous, right? They don't necessarily know it. They don't know it like, obviously, like you and I. Right. It's important to, like, it's okay. We're that's a lot of our job as a partner is like, we got to be brave here. You got to trust us. Adoption will come, because especially when you're moving to a new system, you have your end users. Oh, I don't want to, not end users, but, power users. I don't, I like the way we did it in Remedy, because they're used to that and they think they need it that way. Right. And it's like, trust me, once you start using this, just like, once you move to a newer, now every iPhone's the same, but like when you upgrade, you're like, what is this? I liked it when it was a square box, but then you get used to it, you forget about the old system. Yeah. And then it's like, wow, this is 10 times better. So a lot of times, and that's where like OCM and training are so important on these projects, to say, listen, I know this seems a little quirky, but once you get in the rhythm of this, using it mobily, some of this automation, it's going to make your life so much easier. You're going to forget about, and you're going to be like, how did we ever use that before?
Yeah. It's speed and agility, it's a huge thing. And, the other thing, like when you think about just like GenAI, I like to think about up-leveling the message a bit. ServiceNow has been doing AI for quite a few years. Yeah. And it's funny now, everyone's really paying attention to it, right? So there's the non-generative AI, which is AI, and then there's generative AI. So we've been doing the non-generative stuff for a while. But if you think about it, like anyone can buy ServiceNow. Yeah. If all of our customers that use ServiceNow could do really the same thing if they wanted to. So where's the competitive advantage? Yeah. And I think the competitive advantage is it's a few things, right? It's having a digital transformation roadmap and a blueprint for how are you going to transform the enterprise, but also how are you going to do that with AI? Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you can really have the right processes in place, you can have the right talent, and the talent's important. That's where the customers haven't necessarily invested in the talent and the organizational design needed to really scale out the business. So we talk to so many customers who are like, and these are, you know, platform owners and admins who are like, they're doing their best effort and they want to do more, you know? Yeah. And this is where partners play a big role, like you guys. Yeah. But they're not necessarily getting the funding that they need, right? Yeah. I think so. If it's staffed right, we build out roadmaps. We need to be thinking about building out talent roadmaps too, right? Absolutely. For organizational design. The goal ultimately is to provide a better customer employee experience at a lower unit cost. Exactly. And if you can do that better than your competitor, that's going to give you that competitive advantage. Exactly, because you need it. Mm-hmm. You need that top talent because it's funny. At some point, these organizations get like so large, you know, and I almost like see it with GlideFast in a way, like, you know, starting from zero, over 600 people. I have to like keep on top of our leaders to like, don't get comfortable. You know, this is not just a business that just runs itself. Yeah. Like we have to be aggressive in our over satisfaction of customers. We have to work so hard to stay on top of technology, right? Yeah. Some of these other companies are like 200,000 employees and so big and so massive. It's like, we need to keep our best employees here. We need to attract the best talent. And when a new employee comes to a company and they see this like email onboarding process that's quirky and clunky and things get missed, they start to think, well, how's the rest of the business run? Right. How are we going to stay, you know, a leader? If we sell fidget spinners, how do we stay number one selling fidget spinners if we can't even onboard an employee? Right. And they're like, I'm going to go to this competitor here that's 10 times more efficient. Right. That's obviously their sales process is going to be more efficient. Their production process is going to be, you know what I mean? And that's where, not to go on a tangent here, but that's where I've always envisioned ServiceNow is not just like in the employee sat or customer sat space and all that workflow, but like in the production world, in the sales world, like I want ServiceNow to be part of generating revenue. You know what I mean? Yes. Like that's because it should be. It's that powerful of a platform that it's, you know, obviously we're past the incident world now and just help desk, but when are we going to really be? And I know there's great examples of that, but like I cannot wait for like when this is a production supporting system, you know, things like that. Yeah, I have a really interesting example that when I was leading our MedSled business, which was our healthcare provider, state and local and EDU, clinicians, when they're starting a job with a new healthcare provider, the onboarding experience oftentimes is so bad that they just drop out. Yeah. Even, you know, nurses, doctors. And so we did really well in that area and with the whole onboarding to provide that better experience, that employee experience, that gives you that competitive advantage. You can onboard 100%. Doctors and nurses faster. Yep. They're more inclined to want to continue to work there because they're going to be more productive and it's just going to be an overall better experience. 100%. I'll double down on that. Like, we were a large retailer, I won't name them. I think it took them 26 days to onboard like a $15 an hour employee. And we cut that down to like 6 days or something, 6 to 10 or something crazy like that, leveraging ServiceNow. Yeah. And I don't know the exact numbers on like the revenue increase, the bottom line that it helped, but employee satisfaction, I mean, getting employees to work faster. Yeah. Imagine getting on board, starting at a company is like, oh, you can't work for a month, right? And all the costs that are incurred there, and so it's really exciting. So, how many people roll up to you? I think our team's about 120, roughly. Wow, about 120 people. Yeah, solution consultants. Yep. Yep. What's the leadership like for you know? I know my world. Yeah. You know, and I probably have like 25 SCs, and you know, it's so much about supporting them and making. But in your world, like, what's that like leading? Because I mean, you got to be responsible for a ton of
revenue, right? ACV.
Yeah. Our business is over $1 billion.
Oh man,
what we're responsible for. But first of all, it's an honor, and I just feel I have so much gratitude for ServiceNow and the people that have supported me on my journey. And it's an honor to serve the team, and that's how I see it. That's how our leadership team sees it. For us, it's really about empowering the employees, empowering the team, setting a vision and a strategy, building buy-in, connecting the dots, being inclusive. Because when you ask like how many people on my team, I really think about the whole team.
Yeah.
And for us, we really talk about like winning as a team. In fact, in the East, what we say is one team, one East.
Yeah.
And so our mindset is like, how do we scale our business? Well, we have to think like multipliers. Yeah. And we have to put everyone to work by leveraging their strengths, And so the team is just a hardworking team, I mean, they're all of us. We talk about grit, guts, resilience, initiative, tenacity. There's a lot of grit, and there's a lot of responsibility because not only do they have to know the technology space specifically in like service management, but they also have to know the platform. They have to know to a certain extent other workflows. Oftentimes before we're bringing in more SEs that are specialized in like customer employee risk, creator, so on and so forth.
And I mean, now that you're saying that too, it's like you're not just responsible for your team, and your team's not just responsible for their, like, so much of the sales team is relying on them.
Yeah.
The sales team is great, but they can only go so far, right? They can set up these meetings, they can, build these relationships, but at the end of the day, they're turning to these SCs to really, solution and explain to the customer, hey, this is the right solution to your problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys almost have like a bigger responsibility than on paper, right?
There's a lot there. It's a very dynamic, multifaceted role.
Yeah.
And our relationship with sales is like, it's one of the best I've seen in the industry.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And
I know.
It's we're valued, they're valued, and our customers really look to a lot of solution consultants as trusted advisors.
Yeah.
And they establish some really enduring relationships where the SEs really get to know the customers. They get badged in there with the account. And
I see it. I see it. It's honestly, I know this might sound a little corny, but it's like, it feels like a lot like Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've been involved, like the sales and SC are like locked in, and it's like a personal relationship with customers.
It is,
and that's how it is with us. Like, because listen, we're going to war together. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, like these people's jobs are on the line. They're nervous, and there's nothing better than when we're able to say together, we're gonna do this. We're going to set on this journey. Yeah. We're going to be successful here. And then when we are, it's like, that's why GlideFast is here for the next 20 years is because we have customers for life,
Yeah.
And same thing with ServiceNow. It's like customers took a risk on this thing they think was going to work out. And then it did. And then it exceeded, and it made everybody, get promoted and move up. Right. I mean, that's
for sure.
That's the key.
I was fortunate enough to be a part of that.
I know. I know. So did you start as just a SC?
Yeah, I actually came in as an SC.
Wow. See, that's why you're successful too. It's because you've done the job.
I've done the job
rare.
Quite a few years.
That's
and
rare.
I was like, all right, I came in as an SC, and I said, I want to get into leadership. I'll do the work. Frank Slootman used to say, we want drivers, not passengers. You know, kind of like what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
So how do you keep people engaged and challenged so you don't have complacency, right?
Yep.
For me, I had that driver mindset, like many do, but part of it is also being very vulnerable. Get yourself out there and
not be afraid.
Not be afraid, even when you're uncomfortable. But if you're in a culture where people empower you to do that, and it's safe to make mistakes.
That's the key. That's the key. It's okay. Like I try to say, here at GlideFast, like, it's okay to make mistakes. Let's just try not to make them twice. You know what I mean? Let's just let's just try to, learn from them, because I'll tell you, the mistakes we do make, you see it, the things that you need to improve on. It's like, we know this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just fix it right now. And that's where we've really gotten, I think, even good in the last couple of years of like of just like being real honest with ourselves of where our weak areas are and where we need to improve on. And that's what life's all about in all aspects of our life, right? Is like, you know, we both have 2 girls, right? And so I know we're, you know, raising our kids that way of like it's okay you make mistakes. It's like let's just improve and not do the same thing again.
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, I think another thing is like one of the things that we talked to our team about is like have that franchise mindset. Like be a co-owner in your business.
Exactly.
Looking at all of your customers.
You have to.
And be creative, you know, and figure out how you can go and develop greater customer intimacy, you know, and have that entrepreneurial mindset, really.
Exactly.
And I think when people get that mindset is critical to an SE role because you should go out and have meetings without the sales rep.
Exactly.
You know?
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't wait for direction. I love that. Don't be a passenger, be a driver. I am stealing that one because that's like take initiative, be brave, go out there. You know, you're not sitting here just to scope out projects. Go build relationships with people at ServiceNow, with your customers. Don't just say that's not my job. That's a sales, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah. That's winning as a team.
That's winning as a team. And that's how it's, again, like being that entrepreneurial mindset is going to help everybody. Because especially in this world, in this economy, we all have to be, if we're not all driving the business forward, your company's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just rely on one person.
Yeah, and you know, and then I think sometimes we need people to disrupt us.
Yeah,
we need to disrupt ourselves, and you know, at ServiceNow we get a lot of that because of the growth and the change. You know, but
you are the dominating platform. There's nobody in the rear view. I don't see anybody.
Yeah, it's exciting, but I'll tell you what, it's exciting partnering with GlideFast too. Like you guys, the customers love you. Your CSAT scores are great. You know, and it's evident in, you know, being an elite partner and the awards that you've received at the AMS and global level. And then just like your mindset around customer success. Yeah. Like you're invested in long game like we are, and that you're also invested in ServiceNow. Right?
100%. I mean, so many of us lived through, you know, we were customers. We took the chance ourselves on it and we fell in love with it. But what makes, I think, GlideFast really special is just, I kind of hate the buzzword culture because everybody uses it, but it's like just everybody's here supporting each other. Like it's a circle. Yeah. Like it's truly a circle it levels everybody up. Yeah. You know, because nobody's ever stranded, you know? Nobody can know everything, right? Right. You know, so when you need help.
Well, ChatGPT now.
Now you know. Now you're good.
70%.
Exactly.
Accuracy.
So I always like to leave our audience with some advice. So if there's an SC out there that wants to break into leadership or get to the next level or be a better SC, what's some advice you could give them?
Well, I would start with some core components to be a successful SC. I think first, know your product. Yep. Master that, right? And know the platform, specifically with ServiceNow. Be a technologist and be adaptable. So I had a early in career SE asked me, hey, what should I be focusing on? I'm like, be an early adopter of GenAI. Like we're all figuring this out now. Yeah. This is an opportunity for you to get into this early so you can start developing
on the same level right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in many cases, learn your industry, right? And then be customer focused. Like one of our values is wow, our customers. So be customer focused, like really get to know the customer, be good at discovery and uncovering problems so that you can then provide really good solutions. And then I think it's being like a really good communicator. And that oftentimes is through storytelling and knowing the customer and focusing on the customer's outcomes instead of the features and functions and the platform. Sometimes we can make it harder on ourselves. Yeah, and then I would say the last thing is back to like what we're talking about is mindset. Yeah. Like I think it all starts with mindset. Like feel empowered to go and do things, and that mindset can lead to other opportunities. You know, like for me, my mindset was I want to get into leadership. Yeah. What do I need to do? Well, I'm going to master my role first. Yes. But at the same time, I'm gonna build out a board of directors that are going to support me along the way on my journey to bring opportunities to help me prove that I I can learn and grow and really want to
Smart.
committed to leadership, you know?
Yeah.
So getting into leadership, I think the biggest thing is like build those board of directors out around you, but don't let that distract you from mastering your role as well.
Big time.
You know,
that's like, I think some of the best advice anyone can receive. Because I think a lot of people think getting into leadership is like less work and it's easier. It's the opposite. Good leadership.
Yeah.
Right? The wrong type of leadership, it is that person that just sits behind the desk, barks orders, and guess what? They're not going to last.
Yeah.
They won't.
Yep.
At least not in your org or my org, right?
Yeah.
But mastering your role and understanding that is just, it gives you so much better perspective to help lead others. And
it does.
And other people will follow. Other people will follow because Dave's done the job. Dave knows he's going to support me. He has empathy. Like that's key.
And one of the things is just real quickly, an analogy, if you're in a leadership role right now, and some people listening to this podcast here might, may have heard me use this analogy before. It's not mine, but it really resonated with me. And the concept of snow melts from the edges. And when you think about it, when you're out there, where we live, we get snow, and you got to shovel it. And that snow, when you pile it up, it's tallest in the center. Well, that center, if you think of that as leadership, well, when spring comes, that snow melts at the edges first, and the center of the pile is the last thing that's left.
Wow.
All the changes happen at the edges. So if you're in a leadership role and you're not out there with your team or with your customers and listening and learning and asking questions, you're going to miss all those changes. And by the time you see those changes, it might be too late. Yeah. So stay close to the edges. Advice.
Stay close to the edges. Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Dave. And thank you for all you do for ServiceNow and our customers.
Likewise. You guys are amazing, man. And looking forward to just continuing to grow the business together.
24, baby. Let's go.
Right.
We're here.
I'm super excited.
Awesome.
Excited.
Thank you, guys.